मा त्वं गिरिजामती सहचरा प्राणा शरीरं गृहम् पूजाते विषयोपभोगरचना निद्रा समाधि स्थिति संचारः पदयो प्रदक्षिण विधि स्तोत्राणि सर्वा गिरो यद्यत् कर्म करोमि तदखिलम् शम्भो तवाराधनम् करचरण कृतं वा कार्यजं कर्मजं वा श्रवणनयनजं वा मानसं वा पराधं विहितं विहितं वा सर्वमेतत्क्षमस्व जय जय करुणाब्धे श्री महादेव शंभो जय जय करुणाब्धे श्री महादेव शंभो सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय.
Thank you, Hema. All my dear sadhak brothers and sisters, pranam from my side. Today's speaker, Anjali ji, is well known to all of us. For those who have joined recently, Anjali ji was associated with Param Pujya Shri Dada Gavand for 10 years until he left his mortal coil in January 2012. She edited all his books, and she has also authored The Inner Journey, a booklet which gives us Dadaji's approach. Last year, she also compiled his pointers entitled Witnessing Within, which she will be showing us now. Anjali ji retired as Associate Professor and Head of Department English from Ruya College. She also found a Center for Mindfulness and Well-Being in Ruya College to teach meditation to the students. I request Anjali ji to take over the proceedings now. And Anjali ji, after you have finished, then you will be also attending to the question answers.
Sure.
And, yes.
Yeah.
And taking us through a meditation.
Right.
Thank you, Anjali ji.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Anuradha ji. Such an honor to be introduced by you. I would like to begin by requesting Hema to go ahead with the recorded speech. I was not sure whether I would be able to attend, but today we are going to try and go within as suggested by Dadaji. Witnessing within is the topic that I have chosen. And it is something which we need to do very badly because we live in a mind age when the mind is hyperactive and hardly allows us to take an appointment with ourselves. So today we'll try and do that, each one of us, including myself. So Hemaji, can we have the recording first? And then
Yes,
we
ma'am.
follow it by looking at the clip and have Dadaji's darshan.
Yes.
Namaste, love-filled pranams to each one of you, and thank you so much for this opportunity to share my understanding of Sri Dada Gavand's luminous and inspiring teaching. Dadaji was an advocate of self-inquiry, which has to be undertaken through detached witnessing within. And though this is not an easy task because the brain cells are not used to take a U-turn and look at themselves, Dadaji pointed out that it was not that difficult either. If you just, maybe you may struggle for the first few attempts, but then as your watching intensifies, the energy from the object that is being watched comes into the watching. Now, I would like to begin by talking about Dadaji's own quest and the beginning of his spiritual journey as enunciated in his autobiography, Intelligence Beyond Thought. I would be talking about his early journey as well as his insights into the nature of the mind. Then I would like to focus on the process of witnessing itself, and finally Dadaji's pointers to us on right living. So to begin with, Dadaji came from a very well-to-do family. He had everything going for him. He was also a member of the Thane Municipal Board. He was the captain of his cricket team, and all was well. But still there was within him this sense of life being much wider and broader, the horizons of life. And he came across a book in his father's library. By the way, he lost his father when he was only 18, and the entire family responsibility fell upon him. He had 5 sisters and 1 brother, and he had to get all of them married and settled. And as he was watching people around him, and especially his family, he felt that people create a cocoon. Most people create a cocoon for themselves, and then that becomes their playing ground for self-indulgence. They talk about their spouse, they are involved in their children and then even grandchildren, and it's an endless trap of attachments which never allows people to go beyond self-obsession. And so, as I was saying, he came across this book on by Annie Besant. It was called Theosophy and Life's Deeper Problems. And this booklet spoke about an other dimensional energy which lies dormant within us. And it also talks about a deep tranquility which we never tap. Within us is a deep quietude which we never tap. And so this fascinated Dadaji, and he began to meet contemporary sages like Sri Ramana and J. Krishnamurti, who deeply influenced him. And then he set out, after getting his last sibling married, he told his family that he was going on a holiday. He was deeply attached to his mother, but he didn't tell him the truth that he was going for a long self-inquiry, inquiry unto himself, and he went away. He went to a remote mountain, Sajjangarh, and he found a little cottage there, very small hut, in which he led a very austere life, surviving on just a handful of cooked rice. and he spent all his time and energy fathoming the depth of his own inner consciousness through witnessing. So, after about 3 months of rigorous soul searching, he had a major breakthrough. And thereafter also, he remained there for a good 4 months and consolidated his spiritual breakthrough. And he has very vividly described this self-inquiry of his, this pilgrimage unto himself, as he calls it. So, during his search, he realized that the mind, the human mind, is basically extremely self-centered, and it has an unending list of pursuits. It never stops pursuing these unending ambitions, and it is never interested in peace and truth. These two things it is not interested in. And this is not to condemn the mind, but to state a fact. And this has to change if we are to live meaningfully. It is also a fragmented mechanism. It never looks at anything in totality. Its policy is to divide and rule, as it were. And it works in channels. If there's one thought which is predominant, it takes you along one channel, and then it may spin a lot of thoughts around that. You may end up in a loop, but it never looks at things in as a totality. And so it is important to look within. This appearance of cohesion that you have is actually is not the truth. The mind on the surface seems very logical, but that logic is actually self-centered. It either justifies its own stand or defends itself against other people's attacks. And it is also full of contradictions. It is not cohesive. It seems to be cohesive. And as modern psychology tells us, 1/10 of the mind is, of course, visible and conscious, the conscious mind. 9/10 is submerged. And we never quite fathom the complexities within us. So he was one who believed in facing ourselves squarely, including our shadowy selves. And there are so many undigested thoughts within us. We must witness, and if we sit quietly in a place, these will begin to surface. The suppressed emotions will begin to surface, and it's very important not to get involved in them, not to get carried away by these rising emotions. When you start watching, the surface cohesiveness will be shattered, and most probably there will be a seething of boiling of thoughts, as it were. There is a turmoil within, and it's as if a Pandora's box has opened, and old resentments, angers, guilt, fear, all these begin to surface. And he has said somewhere, let your heart bleed to wash itself clean of agony and sorrow. Let your heart be empty of the scars of yesterday and fears of tomorrow. And this is exactly what he did during those 7 months in that little hut up there. So going back to the nature of the mind, the submerged mind has to come to the surface. And if we are able to watch without getting carried away with those thoughts, disengage and watch, and not allow ourselves to slip into emotionality. That is very important. That detached watchfulness is very important. Then he talks about the mind never being in the present moment, which is now a very popular insight coming from Tolle's Power of Now, as you know. But Dadaji also records the tendency of the mind to either project into the future or to dwell on the past and never remaining still in the present moment. Another feature is that it is never contented or satisfied. It wants more and more of everything. And if it has had a fair degree of worldly pleasures and satisfactions, then it starts chasing spiritual goals. Now, Dadaji points out that the mind has no business to desire the spirit, because thought is a low vibration which can never uh, touch the spirit. Therefore, he says that it should keep quiet and not pretend to find the spirit. It will never find the spirit because it is itself a very low frequency, low vibration. And it is a desire there. The desiring mind, desiring spirit is also craving. So that will never get you there. Another very important point is that there is the fictitious I, which seems to be a binding force. There are a series of thoughts, and there is a continuity because of this phantom I or ego, and that also the validity of thought has to be questioned. The validity of this I has to be probed during your self-inquiry. There is a very important aspect of Dadaji's writing, which is the the act of watching. Uh, there are many nourishing insights there for those who wish to go into self-inquiry. For example, at one point he says that the catchment area of awareness, of his awareness, became wider and broader, and the landscape of his mental space widened as a result. Um, the divisions and hidden layers within him got eliminated, and it became one unified space of pulsating sensitivity. So this can happen, though initially it will be one part of the mind watching another. You will gradually step out of the mind field and begin to get a glimpse of the eternal stream of life. He has said somewhere that true meditation is an inward movement of exalted innocence, where there is no past, no future, no time. The rigidity of thought is then loosened, and thought comes into what he calls no man's land. It is a state of not knowing, which is complete innocence and intense sensitivity. So that is something which becomes clearer as we read his very candid and very detailed narrative of the whole process of witnessing itself. And the mind, the conditioned memory mind has to explode as you witness, and it will explode if you do this earnestly. You need to be simple, humble, anonymous, and 100% there. You have to put all your energy and focus into this. And this is like he used to say You can't get an elephant for the price of a rabbit. You have to pay the price of an elephant. Likewise, to uh, to realize your true self, you have to give your entire being to the to this self-inquiry. He talks about a lot of undigested thoughts within us which are suppressed, a lot of psychological toxins, and then he describes his own watching of his fears and his uh, sorrow, and that section is extremely helpful because it so happened that he was meditating one day, and when he opened his eyes, he found that he was surrounded by hundreds of centipedes, which were poisonous. These insects can be very poisonous, and he was petrified. And he was surprised that he should be filled with so much fear, because he had this self-image of being very courageous. After all, he was a hunter. He used to go hunting wild game in the forest of Ure Hills. And therefore he was surprised by his own fearful nature. And in that description, he tells us that although he was fearful, he decided to watch on without getting embroiled in the thought. And the fear intensified like anything. And there came a point when the connection between the trigger factor, the centipedes, and the fear was snapped, and he became intensely aware of primordial fear. It was not just the fearful centipedes. And that is the way to total perception or total understanding of something, which does not happen through the thinking mind, but it happens through this sensitive awareness, which is other dimension. The same happened with sorrow. One day he started worrying about his mother, agonizing over his long absence. He knew jolly well that his siblings were taking care of her, and that she was under the impression that he was on a long holiday. But then the mind has a tendency to see snakes where there are ropes, and so he began to project this scene where his mother is really miserable without him. And then sorrow overwhelmed him. Again, he decided to witness the sorrow without getting engaged in it, without getting involved in it. And the sorrow intensified so much that it almost became world sorrow, elemental sorrow. And then it left him for good. Because I remember the metaphor from J. Krishnamurti: when something flowers, it opens completely and then it sheds itself. So that was what was happening to him. And fear and sorrow, and also his watching of his own sexual energy, that also surprised him. He was not aware of all these thoughts within him. And all these experiences are very vividly recorded. The fact that witnessing enables the seeker to transcend what is witnessed, because the witnesser and the witnessed both dissolve magically when you come into this other dimensional awareness. And it is possible for everybody. It's not as if it is difficult. The initial stages may be challenging, but as you earnestly go along and witness in a focused manner, you are able to step out of the mind field. uh, there is another thing I wanted to point out, which is uh, he is talking about devotion at one point, and he says that a total devotion to the life within is the state of surrender. That doesn't mean you don't go about the business of living. He always said that you needed some um, separate time for this. Um, and then once you've had a breakthrough, you need not meditate as such. Then the entire process of living becomes a long meditation. And whatever speech, thought, or action emerges after the breakthrough comes from that dimension. And then it is the right speech, thought, and action, which is for the good of all. And he says at one point that um, we have to understand that life resides more in the unknown than in the known. And he asks us, how much do you know about yourselves? How much do you know about your nearest and dearest ones? Very little. Everyone is unpredictable, and living is a series of unknown events. So every moment is uncertain, and every turn of life is certainly new, and it is so much more applicable to our times of the pandemic. And so he says to recognize the uncertainty and the newness of life, and to live in it with total abandonment is to live in surrender and faith. So I found this particularly beautiful and illuminating, that the main thing is to be able to embrace life as it is, and not to have expectations, not to have cravings, but to accept life in its totality and embrace uncertainty. This itself is to live in faith and surrender. So, this is what I wanted to share with you today. And one parting thought is that he used to say most seekers merely play on the seashore. They never venture into the deep waters. Now, when you are learning to swim, unless you let go of the foothold, you can never swim. Likewise, to swim through the ocean of life, you have to let go of so many things. And then you need to take the plunge and enter the deep waters if you wish to find your way through this ocean of life, which is full of uncertainties. So I do hope that all of us here are able to navigate through life uh, without getting agitated, or without being encumbered by it, and that whatever technique or whatever approach we undertake, we are able to liquidate the ego and to stumble upon this unknown, mysterious dimension, which is the blessing of life. Dadaji would often say, you come seeking my blessings, but the important thing is to be a blessing to others. So with that thought, I hope you have been able to get a glimpse of Dadaji's insights, and we are about to share a beautiful video clip of his called The Ecstasy of Living, and it would be worth watching Dadaji there, who is 100% there and is inviting you to experience the ecstasy of living through self-inquiry. So thank you very much once again. Sorry about that. I think that was a very low volume. I should learn. And maybe right now you can hear me.
Yes.
And basically, I have been saying all along that for Dadaji, and that is true for all of us, the mind is utilizing all the energy of life. It does not allow us to move beyond the mind, beyond itself towards divinity. And it works in channels. It is desire driven. Everything that we do is desire driven. Everything that we think is desire driven. And therefore, to rise beyond the mind is very crucial, and mind being the main hindrance. And for that, witnessing is a very good approach. So let us listen to the Master himself, and then maybe we could try and practice what he is advocating.
My greetings to the seekers and the meditators of this beautiful island of Kauai. I've been here for the last 2 weeks almost, and I intend to be here for 8 more days. I'll then go to Maui for 3 weeks, and from there I'll go to Los Angeles, California. I'll be visiting 5-6 places, different places in California. And then lastly I'll fly into Denver, in Boulder. So I will be hopping around for the next 4 months. I prefer to come to this island first from Bombay. It's a very beautiful island. The nature has showered all its blessings on this island. Everything here looks so beautiful, so neat, so artistic, so aesthetic. The whole region, right from the ocean to the beaches, to the mountains, the waterfalls and the rainbows, everything is so beautiful here. Nature has really sprinkled all its beauties on this island. But with all these beauties, what is happening to the human beings here? Are they really conscious of this beauty, this ecstasy of the nature? Are they living with this, experiencing of this beauty? Or just they describe what a beautiful place, what a beautiful day, and we just take it all for granted. Are we really conscious of this? Do we experience this ecstasy? Or we are just busy with our own little self? We take this beautiful island perhaps for granted. Yes, it's beautiful. We talk about it. You can describe to each other about this. But do you have enough time, enough energy to relate to this beauty? Do you ever find time? Do you ever find that quietude, that sensitivity, which can make you feel this beauty? Then this beauty has a meaning. Why is the nature creating such beautiful spots at different places? Nature wants you to appreciate the beauty, experience the beauty, and perhaps become the beauty itself. That is what is the challenge the nature has put before us. And he has created some beauty in a human being also. There are some parts, some unknown corners of a human being are really so beautiful. But are we aware of them? Are we conscious of those hidden parts of beauty? Or we are just busy with your own little self, with your thought and mind and desire. Isn't it? A human being on this earth is basically busy with his own mind, his own self, his own desire, emotion, activity. I think that is what is happening now in this. On this earth, everybody is just busy. God. Busy with what? Busy in his mind. Busy in his own petty little dreams. God, everybody has own little dreams. And he's basically busy with these things. And who cares for that enormity the nature has created to experience that? Are we really conscious of that enormity? That timeless spirit which abounding, which is pulsating around us. But we are really closed our eyes to that stupendous nature, and we are all busy with very little things. What is mine? Full with desires and plans and ambitions. Basically, that's the only life we know. Pursuit of your plans. The hope of tomorrow. Busily working all the time. And then we give the lip service to the beauty also in something that is really higher and great. Perhaps that's a lip service. So the time has come for all of us, for the educated, sensitive human beings, to give little more attention to that ecstasy which is lying beyond the realm of mind, beyond the barrier of thought and emotions. There's something so big, so enormous, so huge. And we have to rise above ourselves to feel that hugeness. Otherwise, we are caught up in our own little things of life. What is thought? Thought, our desires, our emotions, our sensations, our attachments, all we are just bound with all this. And we only glorify all these things. Get excited about these things. And really forget about that enormity, that beauty, that glory, that stupendous, timeless reality of life. Who cares for that? We can read about it in the book. So this is a very important challenge for a civilized human being. Not to get too much hooked up to all your little things of life. Of course, we have to earn our livelihood. Pay some time, some attention to that. But with what attachment we do go after that? We're totally attached to it, engrossed in it. We get carried away by that. And we don't have that real energies, that real passion to go after other things which are still hidden in ourselves. The discovery of that hidden is the challenge of life. What else is life without that experience? It's a very mundane affair, very superficial activity. So let's not indulge too much into this. And keep our eye somewhere else. The discovery of that unknown. Without the touch of that unknown, the life will have no much meaning. Life will be a constant struggle and a burden, full with concerns, anxieties, worry about tomorrow. Is it possible to end up some of these things and come into the freshness of life energy? All the big religions came to show this fact to human beings. There's something much greater into man. But we have digested all these religions. And made all those religions a formula, a tradition. Many sages came to show this truth. But that truth was developed into a religion, a philosophy, an approach, a tradition. And we lost that fragrance of the teaching the truth. We can follow the religion, we can repeat the religion. You can become members of this and that and get along. But how many people really live that quality? Live that life of religiousness? religion is a way of living, not a philosophy or a tradition to be accepted and practiced. There is nothing like practicing in life. Life is a way of living in its own enormity. Life, the dynamic living energy which pulsates from moment to moment. God, we have to capture that quality. So what is living? What is life? That pristine energy which lives. Can we really live along with that energy? Or we just continue in time, yesterday, today and tomorrow? So we have all our plans about this time business. And who cares to experience that fullness of life in that moment of the time? To live vibrantly, to live passionately in that moment, in the fullness of life energy. We are too busy with our plans. He who is busy with plans cannot live in that momentum of the now, in the richness of the life energy. So there is a beauty, the secret of life, to come into that totalness of energy and live with your passion. Then that living has a meaning. It's a creative flow of life energy. Then you flow along with the life. And that flow is always creative, new, aesthetic, pure. You can't come into the flow with practicing anything. Now we are learning the art of practicing everything. Living is not a practice. You have to discover that quality of that pulsating momentum of energy which lives, which functions in its ownness. We have lost the capacity of living with the momentum of that energy of life. That energy which twinkles like a star, ever ready to move in its own creativity. And in that creativity, your mind has no meaning, there's no room there. Your idea, your cleverness, your mind has no room there.
मेरे को देखने का है, बहुत जगह में मिट्टी जमा है.
More intellectual. Mind can intellectualize about the spirit. But this spirit is something quite apart from mind, away from mind, beyond the mind. If you want to have a touch of the spirit, you have to be free from your mind, your idea, emotion, activity, and come into that peace, into the state of centeredness, where you can have the touch of the Spirit. Sirs and sisters, the Spirit is really awaiting you. But we are still wandering. Nature wants you to come back to your spirit. But now we are overexcited in our mind, our plans. And most of the energy of life is being spent with the planning, the mind, emotions, all the turmoil of the mind. It is overgrown. Mind has its own utility. We have to have that. But how far? How far to go with the mind and where to stop? We have to have that sense of discrimination, sense of balance, to look at our mind, know it, observe it, and find its own elusive activity, its mechanical drives, all its habit patterns. Otherwise, this mind is going to capture you. It will keep you busy all the time and everywhere. You have to know the structure of thought, mind, emotions. Really, the first challenge is to know this structure, this mold that we are carrying all the time. Whether this mold is keeping us busy, tied down to its own dreams. And now we see the mind is only concerned about its own continuity. It wants to continue at any cost. It won't give you any time to be free of it. That's why this mind has become a burden in itself. Always expecting things, planning out things, trying to achieve something in tomorrow. God, the tomorrow of fulfillment will never arrive. Fulfillment lies only in the moment of the now. That pulsating beauty of the nowness alone will give the fulfillment, the peace. The whole essence of religion is here in the discovery of that nowness. That nowness is the totalness of all the time. So the whole secret of life lies in that momentum of the now. That fleeting moment of the ecstasy of life is there in front of you, right here. But we are all moving around, escaping. The real challenge is to discover that momentum, that fleeting beauty of life. And for that you have to be free from the jargon of your own mind emotional activity. But we are all busy there all the time. And then for some time we try to meditate, come into some kind of balance, some kind of quietude. And there's always a struggle. So we have to take a look at ourselves now. See, we have meditated for a long. We have followed the religions, scriptures, read all the books of the world, and then with all that, where are we? Still we read a lot and excite our intellect, and then try to pacify the intellect, calling it meditation. Is meditation the pacification of the mind? So what else can I tell you? We have to take the challenge of the basic, not just wander on the surface, in the periphery. Not go after that which is just popular. We need the real sharp, attentive awareness into ourselves. To take a look at ourselves only. You are the hindrance and you are the blessing, both. It all depends how you approach, how you live with yourself. The first challenge is to understand this whole complex pattern of our mind. We have never tried to look at it. We have taken it for granted. And we try to understand the mind through the books. You can't understand your mind through books by reading. You have to pay the attention. You have to turn back into yourself to look at the whole ladder of this mind, how it works, how it escapes, how it has its own clever devices. How it takes you away from this corner to that corner. Is it possible to look at this whole complex structure of thought, mind, emotion, desires? Do you ever take a look at it? Impartial look. Do you ever look at it aloofly, impartially, objectively, to see what it is, not wishfully? God. Our thought pattern is just wishful activity. Can you find out that perception which is impartial, which is aloof, which is without any conditioning? You are all thoroughly conditioned with your knowledge, with your techniques, with your selected approaches, and your wishful logical conclusions. We are all very clever in our conclusions. But what is conclusion? Have you gone into it to see? We are so proud about our conclusions. We are so strong about it also. But we have to go into these conclusions, your ideas, your thought process itself. We have played so much with our thought pattern, and you are now bound by it. You are encaged in thought, imprisoned in your thought movement pattern. There's nothing else. And the real beauty of life lies beyond this thought activity. The real, the pure, the aesthetic lies beyond the thought, beyond the mind. There is nothing sacrosanct in the field of mind and thought. It's all a wishful, conditioned activity. Can we look at it really very, very honestly at our thought pattern? So this is our first challenge. This kind of look is not even possible now. We are so much conditioned, thoroughly bound by thought emotions. That clear, clean, transparent look is not possible at all. Without this clean and uncontaminated look, you will never be able to know what reality is, what truth is. You can do all the circuses, repeat and do all sort of things. So the time has come to take a real, honest, intense look at ourselves. So what is the next issue? You have any questions on this line, or of course mind is very clever in asking questions also. Very easy, you can pop up with a question. But let it be a real totality. So this is the real challenge of life. We people who are really intellectual, sensitive, honest, have to take this challenge of realization. Otherwise we will go on deceiving ourselves, jumping around, that's all. There's only one jump into this, and that is a quantum jump. Quantum leap into your own consciousness. Take this challenge the life has offered you to discover that blessing of life, that glory of life. Then the life will be really a blessing and not the burden. You will discover that momentum of timeless reality. And you will be living the life like twinkling star all the time into the momentum of the now. That nowness will become your way of life. And that is the greatest victory of life. I think that is enough. Am I taxing you too much? You don't have to talk for hours and hours. They are important things of life. Ponder over it. Honestly, think, go into it. And the life itself will show the beauty of itself. I think that should be enough. I think. Okay? Where is my boss? I don't know. Yes. What is the order now? Is it? I think it's okay. Yes.
Anyone
People
wants to
want to
ask
ponder
questions?
over it.
Can they ask questions?
Hmm?
Can they ask questions if they have
Question?
some questions?
What question? I don't think questions are really very important at this level, at this stage. Don't activate your minds and your memories through the questioning also. Quietude is much more valuable than questioning. If you have to understand something, you have to have the quietude, that deep feeling of inwardness, where you will know. That knowing is understanding. So let us discover that quality of quietude, where you can be with yourself in your own quietude, in your own tranquility, in your own balance. That quietude is a tranquility and balance state unto yourself. Otherwise you are all the time agitated in the mind. That total imbalance is what is your life, what is your activity. Please have a little holiday from that activity. That will do something good to you. So we need that very badly. We are missing so much of life. Life, the real, resides in that quietude, beyond that quietude. So let's learn the art of being quiet, being serene, being balanced unto oneself. In that balance, in that serenity, you will find the beauty of life. There is so much hidden yet. We must discover that quality of quietude and the tranquility. Only there you will find the fulfillment of your life. What you call peace and fulfillment is that quality inside me. That fulfillment and tranquility is a state unto yourself. And then you will come face to face with that state, where you will know you will be happy. Happiness is that quality. That inward beauty is happiness. That is timeless state. That is the blessing of nature. Then you will be happy like nature is happy, quiet. It doesn't expect much. You see the serenity of this nature, how quiet it is, how serene it is, how fulfilled it is. Well, we have to learn from this nature. So we can be as happy, as serene, balanced and fulfilled as the nature outside is. So this is the challenge that the nature has given us. And you are so lucky that you are the residents of this kind of island. Such a beautiful, quiet, serene island. The nature has sprinkled all its beauty around here. Relate yourself with that beauty. And that beauty is going to help you also to discover your own self. But you must be able to look at the beauty, relate with that beauty, absorb that beauty. Not just talk about it here and there and just busy in your mind. That's generally what we do. So this whole island is a blessing in disguise. Only you have to really relate with that external beauty to come into that internal beauty of life. Then the external and internal will join together and will be a whole total process of living. God, there is such a blessing awaiting a man, but he is intoxicated in his mind and emotion. It's all right for some time, but we don't have too many years to live. We have to discover it as soon as possible. So this is the life, this is the challenge around you. Take it rightly, take it honestly. And this whole paradise will help you. So I think this is all right now. See, that's this.
One is speechless after that impassioned, fervent appeal to go into silence, isn't one? Dada would always say that silence is the gate to go beyond, because silence is not the opposite of noise. It is the outcome of undivided energy. It is the foundation of wholeness, and it is the source of divinity. So now, shall we attempt to get in touch with the deep spirit within us, which is so aesthetic and so meaningful that it will pervade our life. And if we tap it, it will help us feel and experience the twinkling of life energy that he was talking about. So I invite all of you to go on this journey within of witnessing. Witnessing, because when you witness, you have to have a certain distance. If you are reading a book, for example, if you hold it too close, you cannot read it. Unless it is at a certain distance, you cannot witness at all. And that is what happens in witnessing, the advantage of witnessing. Because if you are in the grip of thought, thought always divides energy, because it is, as he said, desire driven. It is a compulsive habitual reaction from desire, and therefore it works in channels, and it splits the energy, divides the energy, whereas witnessing enables us to gather that energy within. So shall we attempt that? Maybe we should first try and relax, and you could either stiffen your body and then let go, or just take a deep breath. When we relax, we are witnessing with awareness, even the process of relaxing. So could you try and take a comfortable position and be aware of your relaxed self? Your jaw can drop, your shoulders can relax. Very often there is stress behind the eyes and the neck. So if you could adjust your position and be aware of your physical form, whether it is relaxed. That is also a form of witnessing. Already you have come closer to your true self, perhaps, by beginning to watch your own physical form, knowing fully well that you are not that form. You can now take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale. Once again, inhale and exhale. The breath, as you know, is even more subtle than the physical form. So inhale again and exhale. So we have, it's like the peeling of an onion, and we are going closer and closer to that pulsating energy that Dadaji talks about. Can we now go further? Dive deeper within ourselves and watch whatever arises. Any thought, feeling that may arise, it's quite simple. If you are able to watch whatever arises without any judgment and without being worried about how you are watching. In case you feel confused about this approach, again, you can peel another layer of the onion and watch your confusion. That way you are diving deeper within. And you will find that the confusion begins to loosen up and dissolve into lack of a kind of knowingness, which is not confusion. A kind of clarity will arise. If there is frustration arising, you could watch the frustration without verbalizing, because words are nothing but thoughts, and they will take you away from that energy, that life energy, which is the source. Like a flock of homesick birds returning to their mountain nest, can we gather all our energy, our body, mind, and our entire energy to return quietly to the source of it all, the source that is completely mysterious and unknown. Again, the mind will evoke imagery. You might start visualizing. But again, that is a kind of trap, because the source is without thought, without words, without any images. It is a pulsating sensitivity wherein the desiring mind has dropped. Every night, nature has already taught us to drop the mind. How easily we glide into sleep. But that is when we are unconscious. Can we let go right now with full awareness? Can we be conscious of what is happening to us? If you find your mind through sheer habit formation returning to a thought, never mind, all is okay. Just gently bring it back. As Sri Ramana used to say, the cow likes to graze in the neighbor's yard, but you can coax it back to your own cowshed. It belongs there. So we can keep doing this with great faith and enthusiasm, like a child learning to stand. It keeps falling, but it never gets tired. It never gets frustrated. It picks itself up most happily and tries again and again. And really, silence is a state of exalted innocence, just like a child. So let us try to watch whatever arises. For some, old scars may arise. Watch those as well. Feel them until you feel them totally in every cell of your being without getting emotional about it. We are the immaculate white pure screen on which the movie of life unfolds. Right now also, against this zero ground that exists in every atom, the dance of the electrons, protons, and neutrons keeps unfolding. But we are not that dance. With grace, we can leap, we can take that quantum leap into this zero ground, which is our truth, which is our reality, not the movie, which seems so real. Let whatever wants to express itself arise and reveal itself to the witness. We need to empty the entire basin of the ego mind. We need to cleanse the residue of personality, which has its strong likes and dislikes, its anger, its fears, its guilt. But all these are illusions. We are not these mind movements. If we can touch that deep quietude within, we will be free from all these illusory emotions, moods. It is possible. It is possible to transcend. It is possible to stumble upon that quietude, which is not the dulling of the mind because of some external agency, the hypnotic charm of a speaker, but because you are able to let go. Can we drop everything? A clever mind will ask, who is going to drop? It is an act of grace when we can drop the dropper as well. Deep within us, there is something sacred, something prior to the witness as well, something luminous, something compassionate, ever expansive, infinite, not limited by the confines of body, mind, memory, the past, the fearful projections into the future. And this very moment, that mysterious dimension is available. The mind abhors silence. It is restless. It will remind you of something that is to be done. It may bring up memories which are remote. That is its habit. We watch this habit. That is why witnessing is very important. Not just calming the mind temporarily, but operating from that dimension 24/7. That is exactly what sages do. once one is established in that dimension, that is the end of all conflict, all divisions, all sorrow, all fears, all questions. The problem maker is the mind. The problem as well as the problem maker magically dissolve. The witness and the object of witnessing both dissolve. And all that remains is the deep, tranquil, and serene presence which pervades the whole universe and is the fountain of love and compassion. The mind will be quick to pick up distractions. Go with a smile. Awareness is a very natural play. It is not a game because a game has a set of rules, whereas awareness is spontaneous. Awareness is present in total listening, pure awareness, where the inner chatter has dropped. Inner chatter in the form of commenting upon the speaker's comment, trying to analyze, evaluate. If all that arises, it's okay. Watch that tendency as well. This is how one can keep peeling the onion until one reaches the very core of one's being, where there is total emptiness. And yet, the energy being totally undivided, it brings a sense of completeness, wholeness, peace, and bliss. It is our birthright to experience this kind of bliss. Every single day we do experience it in our deep sleep, but through witnessing aloofly, attentively, passionately within, and yet witnessing without any stress, in a very relaxed manner. That is sure to bring us a touch of the timeless. Those who like to chant, if they could witness while chanting, witness their own voice, the vibrations, and definitely be a form of witness, which will bring them closer to that sacred space within. Whatever you may undertake to do, such as visualization, whatever it is, can it be done with awareness? Once one touches that dimension, then even day-to-day activities can be done ensconced or rooted in that zero dimension. Then living becomes very creative, meaningful, and fulfilling for the whole universe, because there is no you that is operating there. It is just that physical, it is that pure awareness of beings. The whole universe today needs to awaken to this dimension, which is there for the asking, and which can raise our vibration, raise our immunity, raise our level of peace and bliss, which will help us transcend all the seemingly nightmarish threats around us. So we start this session with a prayer that we may all come into this kind of heightened awareness, not only during our meditation, but also in our day-to-day activities.
I know. हाँ करेंगे. અહીંયા છે આ. આ જો. આપને.
सर्वे सुखिनः सन्तु सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। If you feel like coming out of this state of serenity, you may please rub your hands and warm your face. Others may take their own time opening their eyes. Thank you very much
Thank you,
for,
Anjali.
for this beautiful journey that we undertook together.
I thank you once again, Anjali ji.
Thank
That was
you.
so absorbing, so mesmerizing. And our introduction to Dada Gavand ji, Param Pujya Dada ji, that was love personified. Thank you so much for introducing us to him. Thank you.
Thank Dadaji's grace, which is shining upon us all this very moment.
Thank you.
And,
Do we have any questions for Anjali ji? Emma?
Anybody wants to ask a question? They can unmute and ask.
None?
No, we don't have any question. Maybe everyone has realized that's their mind speaking.
Absolutely. Words fail us, Anjali ji. It was so, so good. Thank you so much.
thank you for your receptivity and your kind words. Thank you so much.
Gaur sir, may I, do we have time for a little prayer session, or should we keep it for next Tuesday, sir?
First of all, I would really like to thank Anjali for this beautiful meditation session. And it was such a wonderful, guided meditation into unlayering of the mind that I was absolutely mesmerized. The only handicap was that when I was deep within, my phone rang and it was a call from a near and dear one, so I had to attend it. But it was really wonderful. So maybe we could have more of these sessions of guided meditation from Anjali ji.
Yes, sir.
And it was truly out of this world. Thank you so much. And as regards the other part that we had discussed, I just want to ask people, can they give 5-7 minutes more?
Yes, sir. 5-7 minutes we can have, sir.
We can have.
Yes,
So we
sir.
just do something very short. So please close your eyes. I will just tell you what we are going to do. Before the program was about to start, Anuradha said that there are so many people who are suffering because they have lost their near and dear ones, and there is much trauma in the family. So can we do something to make it easier for them? So we will just do a little 5-7 minute dharana. So we begin with a prayer to the divine. Say, dear Divine, dear all Masters living on this planet and the Transcendental One. We love you, we honor you, and we appreciate you. We seek your blessings for this session of connecting with people who have transited and people who are under trauma at the soul level, and console them and give them our love. So kindly bless this session. Now with closed eyes, remember your friends and relatives or dear ones who have transited. And mentally send them an invite to be here before you. No matter in which stage of transition they are. In the soul world, everything is heard very quickly, so the souls are there already. And now send mentally an invite to those souls who are caregivers, near and dear ones, who have undergone tremendous trauma and fatigue and anxiety because of what has been happening in their life. So invite those souls also to be here before you. And then tell them, dear souls who are here for this soul conference, I want to tell you that I love you, I honor you, and I appreciate you, and that you are very dear to me. I know that you have suffered difficult circumstances, but I want you to know that you can heal yourself. You have the power to heal yourself at the soul level. You are totally in command. And you do not have to have any trace of anxiety, fear, or suffering. So with great love, respect, and honor, I ask you to please shed any feelings of anxiety, suffering, or separation, or fear. Know that you are loved. Know that you are a fragment of the divine and you are supported. I love you, and everybody else present here in this webinar loves you. You are so loved. Love melts all blockages. It heals all pain, suffering, anxiety. And I give you my love. So as you say this, mentally chant, divine love, 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 divine love. And as Anjali ji said, that as you chant and as you connect with these souls and give them your love, also become very intensely aware of what you are doing. Your awareness imparts much authority and power to your actions without binding you to anything. So just sit in this attitude of love and offer your love to all these souls whom you have invited before you. Divine love, divine love, divine love, divine love, divine love. Have this awareness that they are being filled with light and they are being transformed. And then mentally tell them, I thank you for being here to receive my love. I bless you. May you be free. May you be untouched. And may you act out of your own power. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. May you return where you came from. In an attitude of prayer, thank the Divine. Thank all the masters. And thank yourself for having availed of this opportunity to connect with souls who needed consolation and your support. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Love you. Love you. Love you. And when you feel like, you may gently open your eyes. So, Anuradha ji, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, can we now end the proceedings for the day? Hema, will you?
The master. Hema.
So, Hema,
Ji ma'am. So we will close this webinar. Thank you everyone. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Satgurunath Maharaj ki jai.
thank you all.